Good Morning Texas, the not-so-perfect parent, sponsored by the Gladney Center for Adoption, where hope is born.
For most of us parents, communication with our kids can be tough, to say the least. But for Robert Rummel-Hudson and his family, communication with their little girl, Schuyler, required a completely new form. His attempts to reach his child led him to write Schuyler's Monster, a book about compassion, tolerance, and the love for a daughter. Good morning.
Hi, thank you for having me.
I loved reading your book, but I want the viewers to have an opportunity to learn. Define for me Schuyler's Monster. What is her monster?
Schuyler's Monster, what we refer to as Schuyler's Monster, it's a rare brain malformation called polymicrogyria. It's extremely rare. When she was diagnosed, there were under 100 cases that have been identified worldwide. I think they're probably up to about 900 cases now, so still very, very rare. And it can manifest itself in different ways. For some kids, it can cause seizures, and some pretty serious seizures. Other kids, some level of cognitive delay. For Schuyler, it primarily affects her speech, her ability to communicate. It keeps her from speaking clearly, kind of robs her of her hard consonants, and there are some other minor issues that she has, but it's primarily a speech issue for her.
So she has an inability to kind of form consonants and be able to speak using verbal clues. So she has to find different ways of communicating.
Right.
Well, there was a lot of quotable quotes in your book, and one of the things that I read that I wanted to read, you say she was the one with the monster in her head, but even then, she was the one teaching me how to make my way in this new world. So you've learned a lot from your daughter.
Absolutely. It's funny, too, because I think so much of the anxiety that I've taken on over the years, worrying about what's going to happen to her and what her future is going to be like, and how this is going to manifest itself, the danger of seizures developing, which is a very real concern for her. I've taken a lot of this on. She doesn't seem to have any of that frustration. She doesn't seem to carry any of that anxiety. She is tenacious. She's always positive. And sometimes she'll get frustrated, but it's never the kind of thing that gets the best of her. So many of the times that I've sort of thought, well, I don't know if I can do this. I don't think Schuyler's ever thought that. I think she's seen the challenges and she's just pushed them down and gone on to the next one. So I think the main thing that she's taught me is how to kind of get out of her way.
Right. And I'm also wondering, you talk a lot in your book about your own kind of personal faith journey, if you will, and how you've wrestled with the notion of God. How have you resolved that?
Oh, I don't think I have. I think like anybody, I'm probably on a journey, a spirit journey that's gonna take probably. I don't know that I'll ever get there, but it's interesting because it's funny. Julie has joked before that.
Julie is your wife.
My wife. She's joked that she didn't think I could ever be an atheist, just because then I wouldn't have somebody to blame, and that might actually, I think a lot of parents who deal with an issue, a child who's different, a child who's disabled, there are a lot of questions that you have for God, and resolving those issues and resolving that, the idea of a loving God, a loving Creator who can put such obstacles in the way of just innocent children. That's a hard thing to resolve, and it's something I work on. There are days that I still feel like shaking my angry fists at the sky, and then but then there are days where I can kind of see where the clouds apart a little bit, and I can kind of see some direction, and I can see what it is that Schuyler brings to our lives and to just everyone who meets her. I mean, she's got this infectious personality, and I can imagine very easily her becoming an advocate as she gets older, and she's a very compassionate little girl, and so. As far as God goes, I don't know that I've made any real peace with God yet. But my faith at this point, I have a lot of faith in Schuyler, and and so is God working through Schuyler? Maybe. I'm not a religious person. I never have been, but maybe you don't have to be a religious person. Maybe you just have to kind of open your eyes and open up to the possibilities that are out there.
Well, you talk about holding on to hope and making sure that hope still sustains you. And the book also talks about the challenges that you had within your marriage. And I think that it's good to share this, because because parents that are dealing with children with special needs, all of these issues come into play when it comes to how it affects your marriage, how it affects your relationship with God. And the way that you've told this story was very eloquent. And I also want to say you found some help here in Dallas, too, at the Plano schools, which I think has been really beneficial to you.
Yeah, it almost felt fated, you know, because Schuyler had begun using a speech device to communicate. And right about the time that she had done that, a friend of ours who lived in North Dallas told us that the Plano schools actually had an assistive technology team. And when we came up and visited, we discovered that they were starting a class specifically for kids who use these speech devices. So, and it's just been, it's really opened up her world. You know, it's funny because we used to talk about, you know, would she ever graduate from high school? Would she ever have these opportunities? And the school that she's in now, that's turned into not an if, but a when. And it's nice and it's good for her.
Well, I appreciate you being here. You've had a lot of attention from national magazines and national attention, and it's a wonderful book. So thank you for being here. And for more information on Schuyler's Monster, log on to our website at WFAA.com/GMT. And for parenting questions or for segment ideas, write me at psmith@WFAA.com. Up next, tips for buying a second home. And we'll be right back.